leads to a fun day in baseball yesterday as the Giants defeat the Dodgers 9-3 there. Other news and notes from yesterday, looking at the latest headlines. Schedule releases are going to come out. We're going to talk more about this with Lake Lewis. The Bills opening schedule, first game at their new stadium was announced to be week 2 on Thursday night against the Lions on Prime Video. The Cowboys will open up on Sunday Night Football against the Giants and host the Eagles on Thanksgiving. Of course, all 3 of those games you can catch on the VTR and Sports app this upcoming fall as well. And of course, 2 notes from the weekend that I want to talk more about. I can't believe they did it. I'm going to ask Lake Lewis. He's a DC native, and he knows enough about the Wizards. They really did it with their last number 1 pick up there, John Wall. The Washington Wizards won the lottery. So the Wizards will have the number 1 pick. We'll see who they take. AJ DePanza versus Darren Peterson. That's going to be a fun debate on the fast lane as time goes on. And the Hokies will travel to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the regional round of 2026 NCAA softball tournament, where they'll take on I believe they're the 5 seed. They will take on the 4 seed LSU. There's a couple statements out there about, and we'll talk more about this on Thursday with either David Cunningham or Andy Bitter from TexSideline.com about why Tech did not ultimately host a regional. But ultimately, Virginia Tech was not viewed as top 16 seed. So we'll see. They're going to battle it out against LSU in the Baton Rouge regional. As for Virginia softball, they look it up. They're heading to Knoxville to the Knoxville regional. So that will update you about that. All right, when we come back, Lake Lewis, NFL and Commanders insider, joins us talking the latest in the NFL schedule release. Refs came to a deal. First year head coach with the most pressure. This is the morning warm up on VTR in Sports.
Ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Summer is a time for sunshine and growth, but even in life's brighter moments, things can still feel overwhelming. At Central Virginia Counseling, we provide professional support when you need it most. This summer, prioritize your well-being. Our experienced counselors are here to help you build resilience and move forward with confidence. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com to get started. Central Virginia Counseling, where courage meets compassion.
Summer, hot, steamy. 3 ingredients for an overheated truck. Overheated trucks is an all too often summer problem for diesel trucks. Don't let it happen to you. Go Wicked. Get your diesel truck serviced for less at Wicked Diesel in Bedford. Wicked Diesel is offering 20% off AC and cooling system repairs, plus oil change and tire rotation for 20% off. Go to wickeddieselva.com and print out the coupon. Go Wicked. Wicked Diesel, Bedford, Virginia.
Got a real craving for some real authentic Mexican food? Not some Americanized knockoff? Head to Tacos Los Amigos, where classic Mexican favorites are made from scratch and packed with flavor. From smoky and tender carne asada and flavorful tacos to cheesy quesadillas, burritos, and house-made guacamole, at Tacos Los Amigos, every bite tastes like Mexico. Tacos Los Amigos, open 11 to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday on Amherst Highway, Business 29 in Madison Heights.
When your mower is down, your crew is down, and downtime costs money. That's why Miller Built Outdoor Equipment has a sharp focus on commercial turf professionals, Toro commercial mowers, professional handheld equipment, and a service department that understands urgency. If turf is your business, let's build your fleet the right way. Miller Built Outdoor Equipment, built around your turf.
Rain takes a toll on your house, including your chimney. Even when it's not raining, prolonged humidity impacts your chimney. Don't wait for the problem to enter your house. Call Black Goose Chimney Service. Featuring decades worth of experience, Black Goose Chimney Service will assess what your chimney needs and give you honest answers. Because the longer you wait, the worse it gets. Get ahead of the problem. Call Black Goose Chimney Service and visit blackgoose.net.
Your insurance company tells you to go to a certain shop. Once they give you the inflated estimate, you think, uh-oh, better get Mako. For over 50 years, Mako has been repairing and painting cars. Mako is not in contract with insurance companies. They work for you. They don't give insurance companies discounts and rebates you'd never get. At Mako, you'll get an honest assessment of your repair work by trained, certified professionals. You'll get the choice to pay with insurance or out of pocket, whichever makes sense for you. So if you have an insurance claim, get a second opinion at Mako on Kemper Street in Lynchburg.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected with the show at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
7:14 on this Tuesday, May 12th. Welcome back to the morning warm-up. I'm Trey Lyle. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Lake Lewis set to join us in a matter of moments. We're going to talk the latest with the NFL. And I do want to ask him about the Wizards. He's a DC guy, DC native. So I figured he has to be excited about the Washington Wizards getting number one pick. Do they take AJ Dybantsa? Do they take Darren Peterson? If you don't know, AJ Dybantsa, of course, from BYU. Darren Peterson from Kansas. Darren Peterson is the guy who I think upside-wise might have a higher ceiling, but if you look at his season in terms of how it went with the weird injury stuff, I believe he blamed Kratom because of it. It came out late, but he also had high moments. I really like AJ Dybantsa too. I do believe in this theory. So Utah gets the number 2 pick, and if you know anything about AJ Dybantsa, Ryan Smith has basically funded this man's basketball life. Ryan Smith is the owner of the Utah Jazz because AJ Dybantsa moved to Utah, was basically playing prep high school basketball there, and then ultimately Ryan Smith paid essentially quote unquote AJ Dybantsa to BYU because Ryan Smith, the owner of the Utah Jazz, is also an alum of BYU. Just want to throw that out there. So if you are the Washington Wizards, maybe, just maybe, if you really like Darren Peterson, you can pull off what Danny Ainge did and pull off a trade. All right, we're here with him. He's joined us this morning. Lake, good morning. Lake Lewis, NFL and Commanders Insider. Lake, I want to ask you a basketball question first. You are a Washington guy.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, the Wizards get the number 1 pick. What was the vibe like?
I mean, hope. They still have a long ways to go, but I think if you can, if you can get a pick of this magnitude, it gives you some flexibility to, maybe move it or, take AJ Dybantsa or whatever, who I would take if I had that number 1 pick. So it just gives you some hope, and it gives you a centerpiece player where you're not picking, guys that are good but not great. Now you get a chance to pick a great player. You just got to get the right one.
Of course, the last time you could argue they took a great player. John Wall was the guy up there. You maybe Bradley Beal, but or I mean, Denny Avdia was an all-star, but they traded him quickly, so I don't know if you can count that. But
Yeah.
let's flip over to your day job, and that is covering the Washington Commanders, as we're here with at Lake Lewis Jr. on Twitter. So this is schedule release week, and I always find it funny they do May 14th, like the schedule comes out, and basically we already know the schedule before May 14th. What is something you're looking at when it comes to how these games are going to line up for Washington? Because we obviously know they're probably not playing on Thanksgiving now. The Cowboys have taken that spot with the Eagles. They're not going to be on the first Sunday night of the year because Eagles Cowboys. But like, what are the couple things you're looking at when it comes to the schedule release?
So for me personally, whenever the schedule's getting ready to come out, I'm looking to see where am I going to have to travel to. Secondly, I'm hoping it's not on holidays because it's been on some holidays of late. So when that Cowboys Eagles Thanksgiving Day game, basically was out, made me realize that I could be home for Thanksgiving for once. So outside of that, you want to see how many primetime games, they're going to have, how many Monday night games, how many Sunday night games, maybe even a Thursday game. So you want to see how does the league view them compared to last year? Does the league give them a reprieve because they had this team scheduled for 6 primetime games and an overseas game, which I was at every last one. But the problem is that the team that everyone envisioned wasn't at those games because they were all injured. So now you want to see how many primetime games do they get, and are they still considered a marquee team?
Would you expect less, at least at the start of the year, because you can always flex towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I would say 3, would be the magic number I would look at for them, plus the away game. So the away game counts as a primetime game because it's it's in a different country. So I would say with the away game, and then back here in the States, I would say a total of 4, but 3 primetime games here in the United States.
Looking at another big part of what came out, maybe the biggest news that probably won't be talked about much is the NFLPA, or the NFL and the NFL Refs Association did come to a 7-year collective bargaining agreement for this upcoming season. How big was that? It felt like this was
That's
something
huge.
that had to get done. Obviously, they were threatening replacement refs, but this feels like maybe some of the sneakiest big news of the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, because it was kind of under the radar, for it to happen a couple days ago, and you don't really hear about it. It's not being talked about a lot. I'm going to talk about it on my show later, because I do think that that's a big deal for the league, and hopefully one day it can get to a point where it's full-time referees. I think that that's the one last thing that I'd like to see happen for the league. Because a lot of these gentlemen are lawyers and doctors and own their own businesses. And, so I've always said, if you've had a heavy workload during the week, at your day job, and then you're going to do this, that could be kind of telling on you after a while. And I'm not saying that that's why some games aren't called, well, but you never know. I'm sure if someone did some kind of study on it, there probably has to be some kind of work fatigue that carries over. That's just natural human nature for all of us. So I would like to see the league get to have full-time referees ultimately, but for right now, you take the best thing you can get, and that's getting their normal referees under contract. I think for the next 3-4 years. So I mean, that's a good look.
Here with Lake Lewis, NFL and Commanders Insider. He mentioned his show, the Lake Lewis Jr. Show, tonight, 3 to 4 p.m. You've changed the time.
3 to 4. Yeah, 3 to 4. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yep.
Yeah,
Had to do it because of the schedule.
I remember that. And then you can check him out there, and you can check out Lake Lewis Jr. Show wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget Fridays. He does Fan Friday, where you can call in and join the show. I do want to ask you bigger picture. We'll go bigger picture with first-year head coaches in a second, but a kind of a cool story. Taylor Heineke retired from the NFL this week, and I want you to go back to that playoff game where it felt like the most improbable story, where he comes off the couch and he truly almost beat Tom Brady in a playoff game. It does feel like, while Taylor Heineke probably was never going to start in the NFL, he did have one of the most improbable NFL careers.
Yeah, I mean, that game unfortunately was during COVID. I was at that game too, and it was an empty stadium and it was cold, so it was even colder because it was an empty stadium. And obviously, Washington, if you go back to that playoff game, even including the Super Bowl for Tampa, Washington gave them the most trouble in Tampa's playoff run on their way to winning a Super Bowl. And you know what they did to Kansas City and Mahomes? They destroyed them in the Super Bowl, and it was just one of those games where Taylor had the scramble where he dove into the end zone, and it just imagine what that would have been like in front of a packed house. His lure would have been even more because people would have witnessed it like we witnessed it who were there that night. So yeah, Taylor became a quick fan favorite, in these parts up here, and there still were a lot of people that were upset that he wasn't, retained or brought back in any capacity. So he had like a folklore, for an average football player. I mean, and that's not to disrespect Taylor or anything like that, but you said it yourself. He wasn't a starting quarterback in the NFL, but he was a guy that when he got his opportunity, he took advantage of it. That's why he stuck around in the NFL, and you have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he has a special affinity towards Washington. He ended his going away message or his retirement message with Go Skins. It does feel like you mentioned it. There are plenty of players like I could start naming AJ Eagles fan like AJ Feely or Nick Foles is probably the best example of this in terms of like the highest end of like Nick Foles was not a starting. Well, he did start. Like he had one season where he started and was really good. But like ultimately, Nick Foles is going to be known as a backup quarterback that led a team to a Super Bowl. The cooler part about the NFL, and at least the job we have here, is these kind of stories of like a guy who literally was on a couch, and then like a month later, almost beats Tom Brady in a playoff game. Like this is kind of the cool kind of stories that don't get talked about all the time. But ultimately, you hear about a lot in the NFL.
Yeah, there are probably more players that are living a dream out in the NFL than not. I mean, guys that weren't expected to be in there. That are there. It's one of the guys that I'll be doing my show with. When the season starts, Trent Scott. Is a reserve player for the Commanders. He's probably their top reserve offensive lineman. But he came from Grambling, and that's a small HBCU as far as on the bigger college football spectrum, and he literally is in the NFL, is gearing going to what his 9th year or 10th year. So those are the type of players that there's more of the Trent Scotts in the NFL than it is the guys like the Fernando Mendozas, because let's be honest, everyone doesn't go first round. Most people don't go first round. First rounders are expected to be there, and they probably were expected to be there since they were probably playing youth football because they excelled at it. But the other guys who, sometimes are wondering, sitting by their phone when free agency comes around, am I going to have to get a job like a normal job that's not me playing football? Those are the stories. So when you see guys like Taylor, and Nick Foles, do what they did, that just goes to show that there's hope. That kind of goes back to your original question about the Wizards having the number 1 pick. It means they have hope, and it means that they probably can get a player now that doesn't have to worry about if they need to worry about a career change anytime soon.
Here with Lake Lewis, NFL and Commanders Insider. Lake, I do want to ask you kind of an off-season NFL topic. So this season, Robert Saleh, Mike McCarthy, John Harbaugh, Jeff Hafley, Clint Kubiak, Todd Monken, Joe Brady, Jesse Minter, Kevin Stefanski, and Mike LaFleur. Those are all the first-year head coaches. Obviously, last year, you could argue, was kind of a year of the first-year head coaches. You had Mike Vrabel go and win, get to the Super Bowl. You had, obviously, Ben Johnson and everything he did there. You had Liam Combs. You had basically arguably the 3 top coach of the year candidates all were first year head coaches. Who of that group would you say has the most pressure of the first year head coaches to perform in year one? I feel like you could pick two, and they're kind of it's a clear answer, but I do want to ask you.
I mean, I'm not going to put Kubiak in that because
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be a first year coach, as far
Yeah.
as head coach. I remember his dad. That's you're getting old. I remember Gary. But yeah, so for me, I'm going to have to say Robert Saleh is on the top of that list for me. Because he's had coaching experience before. He is walking into a really, bad situation that he is expected to fix. Um, they have a quarterback that they feel like can be their franchise quarterback long term. And now you just draft a playmaker in Carnell Tate in Tennessee, and so you hope that there's some pieces there. There's some really good building blocks. And I know they put a lot of money into their defense, a lot, as far as free agency. So, I think people aren't expecting for them to be in the playoffs or anything like that. But what did they win last year? What, 2 football games? 3 football games, if I'm not mistaken. You've got to win at least 5 or 6 to show people that it's starting to go up. And the fact that, like, again, he was a head coach before and he had success even as a defensive coordinator in both his stints in San Francisco. I would say right now for him, I think that's going to be, yeah, that's a tough one. That's one that you have to win. The other guy that people could say they're looking to see improvement is going to be John Harbaugh, in New York, because he's got the pedigree, he's got a Super Bowl trophy, and the Giants have some talent on top of that. But again, are they a playoff football team? Maybe not this year, but I think that they're going to be competing for a playoff spot this year. Um, but anything less than having meaningful football in December in New York, that's going to be considered a failure. So I would put those two guys right there because they both have previous head coaching experience, and one of them has a Super Bowl.
Speaking of John Harbaugh, before we get to kind of the second part of this question, Harbaugh comes into the Giants, and a lot of people are comparing to New England last year, where they had the second-year quarterback, the fourth place, easy schedule, quote unquote, easy schedule. Is there a lot of comparisons? Could they have a Patriots-like season? Now, I don't think they'll get to the Super Bowl. The Patriots clearly got a lot of, we'll just say, luck go their way in terms of their path to the Super Bowl. But could the Giants have a season in which was very similar to the Patriots, where they just are able to take advantage of a really easy schedule and have a quarterback that shows promise and have a kind of a competent coach?
I'm going to say a resounding no. And the reason why I say that is because New England played in a god-awful division last year. Outside of Buffalo, Miami and the Jets were wretched. So, that helped part of that easy schedule. Secondly, the path for them to get to the Super Bowl last year went through a lot of quarterbacks with question marks. Let's just call it like it is. That's not going to be the case with the Giants. The Giants are in a brutal division that all the teams in the division should feel like they're playoff ready football teams. All the teams in the division that the Giants will be playing have entrenched quarterbacks, meaning Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a 2-time Super Bowl participant, 1-time winner, and the MVP of that game. And then on top of that, if you look outside of the division in the NFC alone, quarterback play, the Giants would have to get through a Matt Stafford, a Brock Purdy, a Sam Darnold. They would have to get through a Caleb Williams, a Jordan Love. With Minnesota is Kyler Murray's over in Minnesota now. And in the NFC South, you still have Baker Mayfield down there, and you have Tyler Shuck, Shuck is doing his thing in New Orleans. It's going to be tough sledding in the NFC. The NFC is going to be just tough all across the board. So no, I don't think the Giants, that fourth place schedule, I don't buy schedule stuff. A lot of fans put a lot of energy into, I don't know how we're going to do because, people keep saying Washington's schedule's tough. It was tough last year. It was tough the year before. You got to do what you have to do. You got to win the games, and New England did what they were supposed to do last year, But you saw when they the schedule finally met up with them in the Super Bowl, you saw that there was a huge disparity. They could play Seattle 10 times. Seattle would have beat New England 8 or 9 times out of 10 every time they would have played them last year.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I think maybe if you're a fan, a better barometer is to go look at the Vegas win totals instead of winning percentage last season, because that takes into effect how the
Yeah.
roster has changed. I do want to ask you about two in particular, probably the two that will have the most focus in terms of if they're successful, if they're not, is Jesse Minter and Joe Brady, because they are obviously in Baltimore and Buffalo. Do you think Jesse Minter has more pressure just because his direct comparison is in the NFL in John Harbaugh already, and whereas Joe Brady was in Buffalo already, there's kind of a shine. They both have a shine to their name because they've been really good play callers both on offense and defense.
Uh-huh.
But it's not like, what's his name? I'm blanking on it. The old Bills coach, Sean McDermott. Is not coaching.
Sean McDermott.
Is not coaching right now in the NFL, so it's not like there's a direct comparison. Who do you think of those two has more pressure to perform this season?
Oh, it's Joe Brady, without question. And the reason for that is easy, because he's not rebuilding. He's going into a season with a Super Bowl ready. Let me rephrase that, with a team that's capable of getting to the Super Bowl. You can't say a team Super Bowl ready if they've never been there. You gotta learn how to get to that game, and it's tough. So, but the way everything went down with McDermott, if that call in Denver was different, the catch, which I thought it was, to Brandon Cooks. If that plays different and Buffalo wins that game, are we having this conversation about McDermott? So obviously, Pagula and company up there, and he's a Penn State guy, so I can't bash him too much, but that was horrible the way they went about that and handled that. Even if you wanted Brady to be your coach, you could have handled that differently. So I think for Brady, he's under immense pressure to produce right now, because you don't want to squander these years with Josh Allen, one of the best in the business. You don't want to squander, his opportunity and his window. And let's face it, if Buffalo doesn't do something special this year, you're going to really start to wonder, is the window closed for Buffalo, even though they have a great quarterback? So Jesse Minter, I think he's going to have a pass in his first year, because, even though the Ravens have Lamar, which to me is still the most exciting player in football, you have to, you got to implement something there. And now they're going with a defensive minded coach, and they haven't had that in 20 years, because you went from Brian Billick to Harbaugh. Billick was an OC that became the head coach. Harbaugh was a special teams guy that became the coach. Mentor is a defensive guy. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get back to their Raven ways of playing great defense and being able to run the football and, take some pressure off Lamar, because he's had to be a one-man band. And I say that with all due respect with Derrick Henry having been there the last 2 years, but they seem like they forget Derrick Henry's on their team when they get to the playoffs. I don't think that'll be the case this year.
Do you think the part, and maybe I should ask you do you think the part of the Ravens kind of regret not having Mike McDonald at this point, like as their head coach, or is it just kind of?
I think a lot of teams might feel that way. People keep asking me, was Mike McDonald, was he really in play with the Commanders? And I'm telling you, absolutely. He was supposed to come back from Seattle and interview with them. But Seattle was like, we're not letting this guy get out of our building. And they had the money, the Allens had the money to make sure that didn't happen. And they got their guy. And I'm not saying that Washington didn't get their guy ultimately in Dan Quinn, because they did. But I'm just saying there were a lot of teams that were high on Mike McDonald, and he had every opportunity to pick where he wanted to be, and he picked there. But the Ravens, I don't think in hindsight they would have even seen that, you keep him and let Harbaugh go. No, I don't think it would have worked out that way at all. So everyone's where they're supposed to be right now.
Here with Lake Lewis, NFL and Commanders Insider, talking the latest from the NFL. Happy schedule release week, everyone. You can listen to the schedule release right here on VTR and Sports on Thursday, May the 14th. Looking at the Commanders roster, obviously the looming Brandon Ayuk situation is here. Do you believe that the key date is June 1st? Because it feels like, or could you expect this to continue into the off season?
Yeah, no, this is
training camp. To be clear, we're already in the off.
Yeah, into training camp. Yeah. This is definitely without question not done on June 1st. There's no way. And you I keep telling fans, you have to understand it's going to get done, but you have to understand that the 49ers are not just in this to try to get a 7th or 6th round pick for this guy, because they know they're not getting that. But they want to make sure that they aren't handing over a nice piece to a team that was just 2 years removed from the NFC Championship game. And that's where he wants to be. He wants to be in Washington, wants to be here. So, if you're a competitor, you don't want to just give away a piece from your pie to somebody else to make their pie taste better. No. So they're gonna ride this out. But I'm gonna tell you the key thing here is that if Brandon Ayuk were to show up for the 49ers offseason stuff, they would have to pay him. And that's where things would get tricky, because you don't want to pay someone that isn't going to play for you. You'll be forced to pay him some money, not the guarantees, because all that's been swiped away. That was voided out last year. But as far as his contract for participation, for showing up, and remember, participation, it doesn't mean you're out running routes. It just means you're standing there. Hence, Terry McLaurin last year. Once Terry McLaurin started to show up to practices and was standing there and would come out at the end of the practices, which was bad look. We all remember that. Terry was getting paid, though. And, so again, that could be Brandon Ayuk's way of saying to the 49ers, you start to stick it to me, so now I'm going to stick it to you, because you're going to have to pay me knowing I'm never going to play for you. So the best thing for the 49ers would be to just let this guy go after June 1st immediately. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think this thing's going well into August, to be honest with you. And I mean late August.
So you would expect this could be a situation where Ayuk is joining the team like a week or two before the season.
Yeah, and I think that's the plan for the 49ers all along. I think it's you don't want Washington to be able to have chemistry with this guy, and he's been going through training camp, and he's part of everything, and he's in, and he looks healthy and all that good stuff. No, you want Washington to sweat it out. You want them to have to worry about what's going to happen with this guy all along, So it's a tactic. I'm not a big fan of it, but it just, what else could it be? What else could the 49ers possibly be thinking they're going to get out of that? Because no team's trading for this guy, because everyone knows he's never going to play for the 49ers. It'd be silly to trade for him, even if it is a desperate team that needs a receiver and they have multiple draft picks going into, next year or the year beyond. You don't want to trade for a player that you're not certain right now, that no one's seen. I mean, some people have seen him, but I'm just saying, as far as like some hardcore, tape out there of him working out and training and running routes, no one's seen that. Just the inner circle of people have seen that. So, yeah, I think it's going to drag out. I really do. But I do ultimately, as I've said for right here on your show too, for months, if not the past year, Brandon Ayuk, I do believe truly is going to be a Washington Commander when it's all said and done.
If his contract was better, like more team friendly, would a trade have happened by now?
100%. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, again, you don't know what he looks like. You know, in Washington, of course, Jaden is this guy, of course, Rashad White, of course, people who know him, George Kittles. I mean, these guys are all around each other, working out together, out in LA. So, well, they're around each other. And so, boom, oops.
You'll see the Instagram photos later, so it's no big deal. Spoiler alert, because that's how they always get posted. As we're here with Lake Lewis, NFL and Commanders insider. I do want to mention. I guess this is a good thing, but like 20 years ago, this would be a really good thing when they were all open contracts, but they're all set contracts. It's just a nice little thing that the Commanders have signed their entire rookie class, because it's just out of the way. But I mean, they're all set contracts, so it's not like it's much negotiation, but it feels like just a little thing that feels good to say you're done with this.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic too, because you remember last year the big fuss was that the second round picks were getting first round type money, and that was like a big deal. No one second round pick was signing right away, and it was dragging out. And what was the one thing Washington didn't have this year? They didn't have a second round pick, so they didn't have to worry about that. So everything, as you said, was slotted in right in order in the place that it needed to be, and everyone signed and ready to play football. And I think that's going to be big for this football team. Not just that, but the participation as far as the veterans. So I expect to see 100%, literally 100% of participation in their OTAs, off-season workouts, even through minicamp, because Laramie Tunsil signed. There's really no contract situations right now. The only one that would have been big would have been similar to Terry's from last year, would have been Laramie, but they, obviously learned from that situation and got their mainstay left tackle in tow. So now it's just football. There's no other side stories outside of Ayuk, possibly to Washington. So that'll be a good thing too, because you can just get there and see X's and O's.
You're saying training camp will be easy?
Training camp sucks. I hate training camp. I'm just gonna be honest. It's too hot. You're out there. You're sweating. It's just the sun is just cooking on you. I gotta wear a hat, put sunscreen on. I don't do any of that stuff ever. But for training camp, oh, best believe I do that, because you're I look like a raisin on your show if I don't.
So first Monday night game has been released, Lake Lewis. But ironically, we don't know where, though. It's Broncos Chiefs, but they haven't decided if it's going to be Broncos at Chiefs or Chiefs at Broncos. But you would assume,
know why.
You would assume it might be Broncos at Chiefs, and there's a certain 15 that's going to be running out there. Is that probably why? I mean, they kind of got to know that Mahomes will be back week 1 if they're putting the Chiefs on Monday Night Football to start the year.
Yeah, that would be obvious, and for me, it would have to be in Kansas City, because just to make sure you get that game with Mahomes, you don't want him, in that altitude, flying in that altitude, with the questionable knee. He might go into that game questionable. So no, that's definitely a Kansas City game all day, and it's just amazing to me because this guy got hurt beyond the halfway mark of last year. I think he got hurt in week 10 or 11. And, it might have even been later than that. But the fact of the matter of him having surgery in December, and here we are, not even in, OTAs yet or training camp. And this guy's trying to participate in those. That's the word that I was getting, is that he's trying to participate in OTAs. That's just unheard of. But in today's game, today's technology, medical technology, guys are coming back from these injuries, quicker and faster and better. But man, you got to err with caution, if you're Kansas City, and I know they are. I know they have the best doctors in the world all over the league for each team. So they're not going to rush him out there, but for him to be out there week 1 it's amazing. And if he does come out there week 1 and he's ready to play football, Kansas City, remember everyone was ready to put the nails in the coffin on them last year after last year and said it's done, the dynasty, the run is over. Think again. Think again.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, there is a chance we get Justin Fields versus Jarrett Stidham because, people
No, no,
forget
no,
Bo
no,
Nix, Bo Nix coming off the ankle injury. So,
Yeah, that trust me, I don't think the NFL did that. For trust me, you talking about flexing. They might put a new rule in that you can flex a week one game if that were the case. No one would watch that if that were the case. But no, I think both people expect to see Bo Nix and Patrick Mahomes under center for those two teams.
all right, Lake, I'm going to put you on record here. 2 questions. First, the Seattle Seahawks open the season against who?
The Chicago Bears.
I like it. And then who's the Commanders' first game of the season?
Commanders' first game of the season
Can't be the Cowboys, can't be the Giants. That's and it can't be.
And it can't be the Eagles either. It can't be anyone in the division. So I am going to go out on record and say that the Washington Commanders will open their season at home against, I want to say, an AFC East opponent.
South. You mean
Huh?
South, AFC South?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, an AFC South opponent.
That's
Can't
Houston
be
or Indy.
Jacksonville. It's got to be Indy. If you ask me, it's got to be Indy. So I'm going to say Washington opens their season at home against Indianapolis, 1:00 game.
Jaden Daniels versus Daniel Jones to kick off the season. At Lake Lewis Jr. Check out the Lake Lewis Jr. show wherever you get the podcast. If you are listening, my family's listening, so they're in Richmond. So make sure you tune in to ESPN Richmond 3 to 4 today. If you missed that show, check out Lake Lewis Jr. show wherever you get the podcast. Follow Lake on all platforms. Lake
or YouTube.
Or YouTube. Always follow him on the platforms. Check out his YouTube. Check out his Friday show. You can you can call in his show and say, Trey's pretty right about things. Just do that. You can do that. Anyways, at Lake Lewis Jr. on Twitter. Lake, always fun having you on the show, and we'll talk again next week.
All right, my friend. Good seeing you, man. Take care now.
Yes, sir. That was Lake Lewis. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show. This is the morning warm up on VTRN Sports.
Fall head over heels for the perfect VW SUV. One size doesn't fit all, though, and that's why Volkswagen has an SUV for everyone. From the compact and affordable Volkswagen Taos to the tech-packed Tiguan and the spacious Volkswagen Atlas. No matter which one fits your lifestyle, you'll love the comfort, performance, and safety. Stop by Terry Volkswagen on Forest Road in Lynchburg or check us out online at terryvw.com. Terry Volkswagen. You'll love our cars.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Macadoo for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics to Coney Island, Betty Bob, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share great food and fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Market News.
We'll see you at the News.
Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. We've seen a lot since 1982. One new issue is an increasing number of uninsured drivers. Unfortunately, when these drivers are at fault for an accident, there's a higher likelihood that they'll flee from the scene, leaving you with a potential mess. So in shopping for your auto insurance policy, please keep in mind that strong, uninsured motorist coverage can protect you from this headache. And if you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, call us at 777-HURT and visit trostlaw.com.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses. Leading appliances like KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speed Queen, GE, and Monogram. And mattresses like Sealy, Serta, and Tempur-Pedic. So what's the difference? A family, locally owned business. And a staff committed to servicing you over the entire life of the product. That means before, during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today, just off Ward Road in Lynchburg. Haley's, quality that counts.
Take advantage this spring of the early season savings on a new energy-efficient heat pump from Terrell E. Mosley. Now through April, you can get savings up to $1,000 or 12-month 0% financing on qualifying systems. Electricity prices are on the rise, and a new energy heat pump is one way to take the sting out of those electric bills. All it takes is one call to the comfort people at Terrell E. Mosley to take advantage of early season savings on a new high-efficiency heat pump. Visit TerrellEMosley.com.
Ready for a getaway? Whether if it's a beach trip, mountain retreat, or a long-awaited family adventure, Farmers Bank can help you get there. Our vacation loan options offer simple terms and local services you can trust, so you can focus on making memories and not stressing over financing. Life moves fast. Take time to recharge and reconnect. When you're ready to plan your next escape, we're ready to help. Farmers Bank, your community, your bank, your future.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Good morning. We are just getting your day started here on VTRN Sports with the morning warm-up. Stay connected with the show at Trey Lyle VT and Ty Tracy 90 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen wherever you are with the VTRN Sports app or watch the show live on YouTube at youtube.com/VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, back to the morning warm-up.
7:54 on this glorious Tuesday, May 12th. Welcome back to the morning warm-up. I'm Trey Lyle. No Ty Tracy today. He'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry. Ty will be back from his vacation tomorrow, so don't you worry, folks. If you're missing the champion of today in sports history, Tyrone Lamar Tracy, star running back for the New York Giants, he'll be back tomorrow on the morning warm-up. We're also at Bryson Gordon at newsadvance.com. Join us as well. Of course, we had Lake Lewis on today talking about the show here, and more news and notes from the weekend. Do want to shout, obviously we mentioned Virginia Tech not making the hosting a regional. They did fall short in the ACC championship game to Florida State in a pretty good game. It was 3-1 in a pretty good game. Hokies did take the lead at 1.1-0, but ultimately just couldn't get enough done on in that ACC championship game to get it done, as they fell to Florida State in a game in which I feel it felt like they played really good. I think they had a really good ACC tournament, and it could lead to them having a really good NCAA tournament. I think they lost 2-1. I think they're more than capable of advancing out of the Baton Rouge regional, heading to a super regional. And for whatever reason, the Hokies just did not do enough to host I do not think it was because of graduation. Because could it have been? That's what Andy Bitter brought up. It's quite possible. I think that definitely did factor into it. Other news and notes from the weekend. Kesha Blanton was named the assistant coach for Megan Duffy on the Virginia Tech women's basketball team. Hayek Motorsports announced a multi-year extension for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. A very serious situation when it came to Missouri running back Ahmad Hardy. He was a victim of shooting Sunday morning in Mississippi. While he is stable, in stable condition, he did get shot in his leg. There is optimism that he will be playing football again. Don't know how quickly he can return, but obviously that is a secondary thing to the fact that Ahmad Hardy should get healthy. Steve Kerr announced or agreed to a 2-year contract, return as the head coach of the Warriors. There was speculation that he could go back to TV, mainly at ESPN. But ultimately, he is heading back to the Warriors becoming the highest paid coach in the NBA. Considering he is the most accomplished coach currently in the NBA, it makes sense. He being a multi-time champion and everything that goes with the run the Warriors have had under him. Other news and notes from the weekend, we mentioned it. I think this is going to be a fun debate to basketball, what the Wizards do at number one. It feels like it's going to be AJ DeBanza. But again, as I mentioned earlier, Utah, the owner, okay, so not the Utah Jazz specifically, but the owner of the Utah Jazz, Ryan Smith, has already spent millions of dollars on AJ DeBanza. Would a, like, now, ironically, the guy who's running the Celtic or the Utah Jazz made this trade. But if you are the Washington Wizards, so the Celtics had the number 1 pick, and they traded the Sixers for the number 3 pick and a future first round pick. If you're the Wizards and you get like an unprotected first from Utah for the number 1 pick, and this is if you love Darren Peterson, okay? But you need to make it seem like you love AJ DeBanza more. You use, like, is Darren Peterson an unprotected pick from the Utah Jazz, or 2 unprotected picks from the Utah Jazz because they have them? You know, you ask for as many picks as you possibly. That might be better long term. I'm intrigued by what happens at 3. North Carolina fans, shout out to Bryce and Gordon listening. That could Caleb Wilson go 3, or is it going to be Cam Boozer from Duke? So, but I can't believe the Wizards got the number 1 pick. Good thing happened to Washington Wizards. All right, that will do for our show today. Thanks so much to Lake Lewis for joining us. Fun times here with DC Sports. We're debating that. Another thing is Nebraska lost its College Sports Commission arbitration case, so that could mean good things for the power of the CSC. But that will do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much for listening to the Morning Warm-Up on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, W227 BG Timberlake, and 1320 AM WVGM Lynchburg.
This is Unsportsmanlike.